start the class. Okay, guys. So we have done with the first module. If you have gone through the previous lectures, we have done a couple of lectures on soil structure and mineralogy, right? Right. So that's the module 1, and here we are dealing with the next separate module, which is and this is the lecture number 3. So as you can see here, this is my profile. I'm Sham Sundar, MTech from IIT Madras, currently working in PMSC Berhampur, and have 4 years of experience. So this is geotechnical engineering. It's a training course for GATE, initiated by TechUp faculty spread across the country. Okay, so we'll start the lecture. So this is the module 2, which is about the properties of soil and soil classification. We'll start with the properties of soil. So before starting properties of soil, we should know what is the soil, right? So what is the soil? So as we told that the soil is consists of 3 parts. So you can see, so this is a solid. So these are the solids. So this is one more solid. So this gray color and black color things are solids, and you have this blue color part is there, no, that is water, and the empty space is air. So you have solids, water and air. So the soil consists of solids, water and air. So these soil particles are uncemented, so they can be separated easily, one particle and the other. That's what we call soil, right? So now when you see the look at the solids, so we have 2 kinds of solids here. So one is organic solids and the other one is inorganic solids. So organic solids means what? So these are the solids formed by disintegration of disintegration of vegetative matter and dead bodies. So, if someone dies, so eventually he'll be disintegrated in the ground, right? Buried in the ground. So if you see tombs and all. So the thing is, after the dead bodies were buried, the dead bodies will decompose, and all the matter will convert into soil. So that's what the organic solids. So those dead animals or the plants or vegetative matter which will be decomposed in the soil is formed into organic solids, and the rest of particles like your rock particles and all those comes under inorganic solids. These have some minerals, right? So this generally the organic soils looks in a black color. That's why I've showed organic solids in this black color. So this black color particles represents organic solids, and this gray represents inorganic solids. Although the soils will have different colors, right? Depends on the minerals present in solids. So general colors is gray and black color. Black color, generally organic solids are generally in black color. That's why I've represented this organic solids as a black color. So this is the organic solids. So these are the organic solids, and the rest of particles are inorganic solids. Fine. Now when it comes to water, so water is also consists of 4 forms in the soil, right? So one is structural water. So the structural water is actually inside the solid particles. You can see here, this is the structural water. So you have this solid particle, right? So in that solid particle, there is a few amount of water. That is what we call structural water, right? So this is the structural water. Structural water means inside inside solids. So this cannot be easily removed, right? So the soil has to be broke down in order to remove the structural water. That is structural water. And the next thing is adsorbed water. See, this adsorbed water is water which is surrounding this soil particles. So you can see here, this is the adsorbed water, this is the solid particle, and some water is stick to the solid soil particle. So you can see also here, you can see small portion of water here. So the water which is sticking to the soil particle, that is what we call adsorbed water. So why this adsorption? Because of the negative charge on the soil particle, as we told in the previous class. So the soil has some negative charge, so it will attract the ions in the water, positive ions in the water. So that's why this adsorbed water stick to this. And this adsorbed water is also generally more in clay soils, and it will be lesser in granular soils. If the particle size is lesser, then the adsorbed water content will be more. So this is the water which is uh, on the surface. Okay, water stick to the surface of clay particle. Surface of soil particle. So generally more in clay. So so this is the adsorbed water, and there is a one more kind of water which is capillary water. So this capillary water you can see here. So this is capillary water. So what is this capillary water? This is the capillary water. So this capillary water you can see here. So why this happening? Because of the surface tension. The solid particles have some surface tension. I mean, the water will have some surface tension, right? So because of the surface tension, the water will be rising, and it will be kept hold it between these two particles. So this will form a kind of pipe. You have come across the surface tension in the fluid mechanics, right? If you dip some pipe and then the water will be rising, capillary, we call that as capillary rise. Same phenomena applies here. Because of the surface tension of water, it will be stored between the soil particle, right? Uh, so that's what we call capillary water. So this is uh, water in voids holded because of surface tension. So these three combined, these three waters are what we call uh, no, I mean this is what okay, the next water we have is free water. This is what we call gravitational water also. This is also we can call it as gravity water. Why gravity water? Because this can be moved by its weight. So the water has some weight, right? Because of its own weight, the water will go down. So the water will go down, but these three forms of water will not go by the gravitational force. So either you have to heat, I mean you have to give some temperature, heat to the soil, then they get evaporated. uh, Otherwise you can add some chemicals, then the water reacts with those chemicals, and that this will get lost, right? So these are the four forms of water that exists in the soil. Now one more point here is okay, so the structural water, as it is inside the soil particle, we don't consider this as a water, separate water. You consider this along with the solid particle itself, because it's inside the solid particle. It's, I mean, in the soil particle. Then this is not considered as a separate water. This is considered along with the solid particle itself, right? Okay. So these are the water present in the solid. And we have one more part, which is air. So air, there is no classification, nothing. Air is just simple air, which has some carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, and all the forms. So not so important for us to know. So this is air voids. So this water and air actually occupy spaces between the solid particles. If there is a one solid particle, and if you have another solid particle, then this space between the solid particles can be filled with either air or water. So that's why combinedly the water and air volume are called as voids volume. We'll see that further. So you see, you can see this. So different forms of water and different forms of soil you can see here. So the same soil matrix, this is a soil matrix. So I can represent the soil matrix as this form, you know. So you can see this, right? So this is the modified version of showing soil in this form. So I've separated all the solid particles and I've kept the solid particles at the bottom at one place, and I've separated all the water and kept it another place, and the rest of space is occupied by air. So this separate representation is what we call three-phase diagram. So this is what is three-phase diagram, right? So this is solids, and this is water, and this is air, right? So we have represented volumes on left side. So these are the volumes on left side and weights on the right side. Right. So this WW represents weight of water and WS is weight of solids. Okay, I'll write here. So this is weight of water and this is weight of solids. So we don't consider the weight of air because the air is completely negligible in weight compared to the water and solids. Even though you consider the air weight, which will be very small, it's almost zero when you are dealing with these two weights, you know. So that's why you consider air as weightless. So the total weight is sum of, so this is the total weight. So we are representing here, this is the total weight. Okay, so this total weight is sum of weight of water plus weight of solids. So the total weight W we can write as weight of water plus weight of solids. In the same way, if you look at the volumes, so here we have three volumes: volume of air, volume of water, and volume of solids. So this air volume and water volume are combinedly called as voids volume. So voids volume, volume of voids, we represent with VV. So this is the VV, volume of voids, which is combined volume of air voids plus water voids, right? So now the total volume is, so if you consider the total volume, that will be, so this voids volume plus your solids volume. So this is the solids volume, right? And this is the voids volume. So the air and water are combinedly called as voids, but there is a catch here, you know. So the thing is, while you're considering water in voids, you don't consider the structural water, this part of the water, as voids water, you know. So this water inside the solid particle, which is what we call structural water, right? So this structural water is not considered as uh, water in the voids. So this is considered as part of your solid particles itself. So structural water is not part of water in voids. So we consider this as voids, I mean solids only. So this water includes in the solids itself. It is not included in the this water. right? So this is the water, but this water consists of only gravitational water, capillary water, and adsorbed water. So this adsorbed water we also call we have one more name for this adsorbed water, right? Okay, I forgot to mention. So this adsorbed water is also called as hygroscopic water. So we call this adsorbed water as hygroscopic water. Okay, I'll write it here. So this adsorbed water is also called as hygroscopic water. You can see this is the adsorbed water surrounding the soil particle, right? So this adsorbed water, free water, which is gravitational water, and capillary water, these are all considered under water in the voids, but not the structural water. Fine. Okay. So these are the solid particle. So this three-phase diagram can be sometimes exist in two-phase also. Like if your all voids are filled with water, there is no air, then you have only water and solids as your phases, right? So which we call as saturated state. And if you dry the soil, if you heat the soil, then what happens? The water in here gets evaporated. Then in your voids, that is space between the solid particles, there is no water, only filled with air. So we call that condition as dry state. So this is the dry state where you have only air, and this is saturated state. You have water and soil both existing, right? Okay. So let's get back here. So if you look at here, depends on how much volume is occupied by air, how much volume is occupied by water, and how much volume is occupied by solids, and what is this weight of solids. See, the solids have different weights, although the volume is same. So it depends on the specific gravity of solids, the weights will be different, right? So the some soils will have more weight and some soils will have less weight even for the same volume, right? Depends on this weight and volumes, your most of your soil behavior depends, right? So that's why it's important to identify how much volumes and how much weights are occupied by different uh, states of matter in the soil, you know. And we have different terms related to the soil, so which will give you a proper idea on the soil how it is. So we'll go through all those terms now. So first we'll see the volumetric parameters. So volumetric parameters means these are the parameters which related on only on the volumes, you know. So only on the volumes, volume of solids, volume of water, and volume of air. So these are the parameters: void ratio, porosity, degree of saturation, air content, and percentage of air voids. So the one more thing here is this volumetric parameters cannot be measured directly, you know. So you do some other tests like consolidation or compression testing. So from that test, you will find out these parameters, but not directly. You don't find out. Not directly you find out these parameters, right? So we'll discuss all these parameters one by one. We'll start with the void ratio. So this void ratio. So void ratio will generally represent with E, right? So this E is actually equals to. So this is air. So volume of air. This is volume of air. And up to here, this is volume of water, right? So combinedly we call as volume of voids, right? And this volume is volume of solids. So this void ratio is actually the ratio of volume of voids to the volume of solids. volume of voids over volume of solids. You know, so this is the void ratio. So this tells you about the complete volume of voids, that is gap between the solid particles present in. You know, this is solid particle and this is vacant space which is filled by air and water. So that vacant space is what we call voids, right? Okay, these values are generally ranging different ways, you know. So for some soils it will be lesser, for some soils it will be more, and even for the same soils, sometimes the void ratio will be lesser and sometimes it will be more. So if you compress, if you give some load to the soil, then the void ratio reduces, and if you increase the load, decrease the load, the void ratio can be different, right? So the C value can be anything, any value. So can be greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. Equal to 0 is generally not possible because you cannot have complete soil, right? In a soil, you cannot have only solid particles, because there will be some gap, obviously. So that's why E value will be generally more than 0, but it can be any value more than 0. Sometimes this void ratio can be 2, that means the void's volume will be much more than the solid volume. Sometimes it can be 3, right? Depends on the types of soil to soil. And one more thing is, generally the E value is more for, so E value is generally more for soils which are having lesser size particles, soils of smaller particle size. That means generally clays will have more E than silts and sands and gravels. You know, so it's kind of intriguing, you know, because the gravels and sand particles are larger size, right? So the space between them will be generally more. But actual thing is, smaller particles will also have so much of volume. Although the spaces are smaller, if you combine total volume of spaces, then this spaces in this smaller size particles will be more than this larger size particles. That's why the clays will have more E than the silts and sands and gravels. Yeah, this is a void ratio. And the next parameter is porosity. So we represent it with M. So N, we can define this N as VV by total volume. So volume of voids by total volume of soil. So this is volume of voids, and this is volume of total soil. So there is a little bit of difference between this parameter and the previous parameter, void ratio, you know. So what is it? So in the void ratio, so if you look at this, in the void ratio, you have denominator as solids, only this volume, right? Only this volume. But in the porosity, you have the total volume, you know. So from voids and also the solids, right? So that is the difference. So in general, in engineering applications, we use E more than so in engineering applications, we use E more than E is more used than N. You know, the reason is here the total volume changes. If you give some load, then the voids will be lost. So if you give some load to the soil in this direction, then this voids volume will gets reduced, right? So the total volume will also change. So the voids volume and total volume both will changes. So it will be little bit of difficulty we'll face while dealing with the calculation processes. So that's why we use more E in our engineering, geotechnical engineering applications than N. This porosity generally used more in agricultural purposes and all, right? But in geotechnical, as a geotechnical engineering, we generally use more, acquainted more with the void ratio, because the void ratio is what? Okay, I'll write down again here again. So void ratio, we define it as voids of volume of voids to the volume of solids, right? So the solids volume is actually not changes, because the soil is almost kind of incompressible, you know. So that's why only the numerator changes in here. So the clarification will be more simpler if you use E value. Fine. Okay. But these two are related. Okay, we'll try to relate them. So this is the N, right? N is a volume of voids by total volume. So this total volume is nothing but volume of voids plus volume of solids. This is volume of solids. So if I take down this VV to the denominator, then I can write this as a kind of VV by VV plus Vs by Vv. So this Vv by Vv is 1, and this Vs by Vv is actually the reciprocal of E, right? So I can write this as 1 by E. So this is equals to E by 1 plus E. So porosity is actually equals to E by 1 plus E. The same way you can even find out E based on N, that is N by 1 minus N. So these are the relation between void ratio and porosity. Fine. So this is the relation between void ratio Okay. So that tells about the total voids, right? Void ratio and porosity gives you more about the total voids, the numerator. If you see in both the cases, here you have voids and here you have voids. But the degree of saturation will be specifying more about the water. So it specifies more about the water present in the soil, right? So this can be defined as degree of saturation S as equals to volume of water to the total voids volume. So this is the total voids volume. So that is the space between the solid particles, and out of the total space, how much volume is occupied by water. So that's what tells you about the degree of saturation. So this degree of saturation, this can be 1 if your all voids are filled with water, right? So this can be 1. We say that condition is saturated. So if all voids are filled with water, then this water volume and voids volume both will be same, right? So the degree of saturation will be 1. So we call that condition as saturated condition. So it is saturated, voids are saturated with water, completely filled with water. Now if you keep the soil in some kind of heat or oven, then all the water will be lost and you have only air present. So in which VW will be 0, so as your degree of saturation. So the degree of saturation is 0 for dry soil, right? So you also cannot identify whether how much saturated the soil is. You need to use different indirect way. We'll come to that later. So this is the degree of saturation, right? So volume of voids to the total volume of voids. Next thing is air content. So the degree of saturation talks about the water present. Now this talks about the air present in the voids. So air content talks about the air present in the voids. So this is volume of air, this is volume of voids. So we can define air content generally represented with A. Sometimes it will be represented with AC also, A suffix C, right? Both will be same. So the air content A is actually equals to volume of air to the volume of voids. And we have one more relation between this A and degree of saturation. So if you add both air content plus degree of saturation, which we found in the previous, so air content is air volume by voids volume, right? And the degree of saturation is water volume by voids volume. Sorry. So this is water volume. So if you combine this VA and VW, that will be VB. So this will be VB by VB, which is 1. So air content plus degree of saturation will always adds up to 1, right? So if it is completely saturated, that means only you have voids, water in the voids. And if it is completely dry, then you have no water. So your air content will be 1. And for saturated condition, no air, so the air content will be 0, degree of saturation 1. So this is how it varies. So this is degree of saturation. And we have one more, air content, we have one more parameter which represents percentage air voids. So we represent this with Na. Percentage air voids is represented generally with the Na. Oh god. So this Na we define as air volume to the total volume. This is the case. So in the percentage air voids, so you have volume of air voids in the numerator, but in the denominator the value changes. This is the total volume, not voids volume, right? So this is the total volume of soil. So in the previous expression, you can see in air content you have voids volume, right? But here we have total volume, so that is the difference. So this is the percentage of air voids. Yeah. Sometimes you use percentage of air voids and sometimes you use air content, depends on your requirement, right? So these are the volume relations: void ratio, porosity, degree of saturation, and air content, and percentage of air voids. So each parameter talks about something. Some talk about voids, some talk about waters, and some talk about air, right? So we have seen that way. So now this weight relationship. So the water has some weight and the solids have some weight. So which those weights will be related with these parameters. So one is water content. We'll define what is water content, and then specific gravity of solids and the specific gravity of soil mass. These are related to the weight of solids and weight of water. So we'll define what is water content first, represented with W. So the water content is represented with W. So this water content is actually equals to the weight of water. This is the weight of water. We show it in right side of the three-phase diagram, right? So this is weight of solids So this water content we can define as this is weight of water by weight of solids, weight of water by weight of solids. So it depends on this water content. You can say what kind of soil is present, So if your soil is more in the soil, then it is kind of sticky, right? So much of liquid and slurry kind of formation, so which is not good. If it is completely dry, then if it doesn't have water, then it will be, there may be some chances of crumbling if in some soils, expensive soils like Montemorillite and black cotton soils and all, right? So this water content is also need to be known properly to understand the soil behavior, right? So this is the water content, but this can be measured out. So you have some tests to find out this water content. Some are in the laboratory and some do we find in the field. We'll go through all these tests one by one. So first one is oven drying method. So this is the most commonly used and highly accurate method. Highly accurate method. We'll tell why it is highly accurate and why it is mostly used uh, while we are discussing. And the other methods we have is pycnometer method, sand bath, alcohol method, calcium carbide method, radiation method, and torsion balance method. So these are all kind of quick, so the water content can be measured very quickly within a short time in using these methods. But this oven drying method is, although it is time taking, time consuming, it will give better results, right? Okay, so we'll see all these methods. First we'll start with the oven drying method. So it's a simple thing. Water content is what? So let's get back to the definition. What is the water content? This is weight of water. So this water weight uh, to the solids weight, right? So we'll find out that only. What we do here, so you take some container, pan, so small pan, and you find out the weight of that container, that is W1, right? And then you fill soil in the container, right? And then you find out the weight of container and the soil you have now as W2. Generally W2 is more than W1, right? And the next stage what you do is you take this container, remove from the weighing balance, this is the weighing balance, and you keep this in oven, so this weight is kept in oven. Then what happens, this water in the soil, so you can see these dots, so this water in the soils gets evaporated and you are left with only the solid particles, no water, right? So after that drying process, what you do, you remove the oven and you take out the soil outside, so which is have only the solid particles, no water, and you again further weight the soil along with the container, right? So let's say that weight is W3. So this weight is W3, which will be less than W2 because there is no water in here in W3, and here you have water, right? So now I want to find out the water content. So this is the soil volume that I took, which is having some water weight, right? So that weight, how can I find out? We'll do one thing. So this weight W2 is consists of uh, water weight, solids weight, and empty container weight, isn't it? But the W consists only of solids weight and container weight, no water, because the water got evaporated by heating process in the oven. So you are left with solid weight and container weight itself. Now if you remove this W2 from W3 from W2, then you'll get water weight, right? So this W3 minus W2 will give me water weight, and I need solids weight, right, in the denominator for my water content. So the solids weight will be how much? So you have empty weight, which is W1. So this is empty weight plus you have solids, no water. So this, if you subtract W1 from W3, you will get the solids weight. So the solids weight will be W3 minus W1. So this is weight of solids. So you can find out the water content from this expression. So once you have W1, W2 and W3, so you can find out the water content, right? So you just have to dry it in the oven. You keep it in the oven, the water lost, and you again find out the weight, then that will give you the water content itself. But here the important thing is this drying process is so important here, you know. So you have to keep the temperature in the oven around 110 degrees centigrade. See, the soil is inorganic soil. So the soil is inorganic soil, then generally we keep the temperature in the oven as 110 degrees centigrade, right? But if you have organic solids in the soil, then you keep the oven for at 60 degrees centigrade. The reason is, so if your soil is having some organic compounds, what happens is if you burn it, if you heat the soil at 110 degrees centigrade, then this organic matter will be broke down. It will be volatile, right? Generally the organic matter is highly volatile, so it will be burned, right? So you lose the soil, but your aim is to remove the water, but if you do it, then you lose the soil. That is what we don't need. That's why you restrict the heating process to 60 degrees only if your soil is organic soil. And one more thing, if you have gypsum in the soil, so I hope you remember what is gypsum. So gypsum is CaSO4 2H2, calcium sulfate dihydrate. So if you have gypsum in the soil, then you heat it till 80 degrees centigrade only. Yeah. So this is the process of heating in the oven. So the temperature. So this is the temperature where we heat. And when it comes to time, how much time you have to keep it in the oven? Generally 24 hours. So the time that we keep it in the oven is 1 day, 24 hours. So for clay soils, the water removal takes 24 hours. But if you have sands, generally 6 hours are required for the sands. 6 hours is sufficient for sandy soils and gravels for drying process. But still we keep it for 24 hours. But since this 24 hours is taken by clay soils, if you have a clay portion in the soil, then that will take more time for drying the water inside the soil, you know. So that's why you keep it for 24 hours. Now here the drawback is this 24 hours. This is the highly red flag, you know. Sometimes you are doing fast track projects. So you're doing fast track projects, right? So fast track projects means so you do constructions at a faster rate, very fast rate. You have to get the building within 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years, less than 5 years, right? So for those cases, you want all the things to be done as fast as possible, but this 24 hour, one day you have to wait. So you have to take the soil and you have to wait till one day for this process, right? So that is why it's a kind of drawback, you know. So this is the reason for other methods to be implemented. The other methods came into picture only because of this. It takes 24 hours for the drying process. So other methods we can use instead of this if you want water content determination quickly. But those methods are not accurate as oven drying method. So this drying method is most accurate than all other methods. Okay. So the next method is sand bath method. So what we do in the sand bath method is you take some soil, you keep it inside some sand, you heat this. You feed this sand. So the sand is heated. So this is the sand. The sand is heated. So the heat transfers to the soil and the water, and then water will be gets evaporated. So this whole process is what we call sand replacement, sand bath method. So we adopt this method in the field. We adopt this method in the field when there is no oven. So it's not like you have some oven all the time, right? So if you don't have the oven, then generally we go for this kind of uh, heating process, removing water, right? So you heat the soil and the soil will remove, water will be removed, and then you can find out weight, and the difference will give you the water weight and your water content, right? So this is a sand bath method. The next method is alcohol method. So we are left with pycnometer. I mean, we left the pycnometer method deliberately because you need to know specific gravity to find out water content using pycnometer. So we'll cover that after we done with specific gravity. Fine. Okay. This next method is alcohol method. So what we do here in this is the soil is added to spirit, some kind of alcohol, you know. So methylated, generally the methylated alcohols we use. So this alcohols are generally uh, a kind of, yeah, what we say, they'll enhance the heat, they'll fasten the heating process because they are oxidizing agents. Because they are oxidizing agents, so they increase the pace of heating. So the removal of water, heating of the water will be done at a faster rate. Very in a few hours, the soil gets ignited, right? So the water will be lost. So you can find out the water content from this test also. Fine. But the thing is, this is generally not suitable for organic soils. You know why? Because uh, this alcohols gets reacted with the organic matter, so they'll form a different compounds, which is not give suitable results here. So that's why you don't use alcohol method if the soils are organic soils. The next method is torsion balance method. So here we use infrared radiation for the removal of water. Here we use infrared radiation for the removal of water. And one more specific experience here is this drying and weighing are done simultaneously. So it's not like you weigh in the oven and for some day, and next day you will find take out the soil and find the weight. So the completely drying and weighing are done at the same stage. So this is generally used in the field, the torsion method. So the radiation you will give, so the water gets heated out. Yeah, this is torsion balance method. There's one more thing here. So we talked about the water present in the soil, right? So structural water, hygroscopic water, we also call this as adsorbed water, and capillary water and gravitational water. So the thing is, these three are called as water present in the voids. So these are called considered in the water content. So, but this is not. So this is not considered in the water content measurement. Now out of this, you have, if you observe here, this is clay and this is sand. So the size is increasing in this direction. Clay are smallest particles and sands are large particles in this bunch. So as long as the soil particle size decreases, then the hygroscopic water increases. You can see here. So the particle size is very less, then the water absorbed to the soil particle will be more. If this particle size is larger, then the water absorbed will be very, very less. So that's why the clays will have generally more hygroscopic water than sands and sandy loam and sandy silts and all, right? But the gravitational water is generally more in case of sands and gravels. Because of the large space, the water is between the solids particles. This is about the water content. Now we'll switch into the specific gravity. So the specific gravity is G. So how can we define the specific gravity? Specific gravity can be defined as it is weight of solids in soil mass over weight of water having equal volume as solids. So let's say this is water volume and this is solids volume. Right, and this is weight of water and this is weight of solids. So we are defining specific gravity here as this is weight of solids in the soil mass, that is Ws, by weight of water having equal volume as the solids. What does this mean? So you have the solids here. Now if you remove the solids and you replace the solids with water, then what is that water weighs? What is the weight of that water? That is in your denominator. So that is in your denominator. So how can we simplify that? So this volume of solids is Vs, right? So volume of solids is Vs. So water having this volume as Vs is how much? So this is Vs, volume of solids. If your water is occupying same volume, so that will be volume of water. And if you multiply this with unit weight of water, right? So then that will give you the weight of water having equal volume as solids. So this is Ws by Vs into gamma W. So this Ws by Vs is actually what we call the density of solids or unit weight of solids. So if you weigh the solids and if you find out the volume of the solids, so that weight by volume give you this unit weight of solids. right? And you left with W, I mean gamma water. So this gamma solids by gamma water is what we get as your G. Now can I replace this weight of solids in terms of G now? So this we have G as weight of solids by volume of solids into gamma W, right? So I can write Ws, that is weight of solids, as G into gamma W into Vs. So I can write it this way also. So this is weight of solids in terms of G. So this G value generally ranges between 2.6 to 2.8. For clays, this will be generally close to 2.7, more than 2.7. For sands and all, this will be generally lesser value, right? So this is the specific gravity of solids. So how do we find out specific gravity? So we use pycnometer method to find out a specific gravity. So this is the method pycnometer method. So what do we do? So this is the pycnometer. So this picture is not exactly showing. It's a kind of, you can think of like a box, right? So which has some lid on top of it. So there will be a box. There will be some cover, something like this, So this is pycnometer. So you can remove this part, top part, and you can fill this with any kind of material, and you can put it up. So first what you do is you don't fill anything in this pycnometer. So you find out only the weight of empty pycnometer, that is W1, and then you fill this pycnometer with the soil and you find out the weight. This will give you W2, the weight will be W2. W2 is a little bit more than W1, which is equals to the soil weight, because the soil is added, right? So the difference between W2 and W1 will give you the solid's weight. So this soil has to be dry, oven dried soil. Oven dried soil, you should keep this in mind, because it shouldn't have any water. Then only we can be easily find out the specific gravity, right? So this is W2. Now what you do, you have the soil now, and then you open the lid and you pour water into this container. Then this will be completely filled with water, and once it is completely filled, you find out the weight of this bottle again, pycnometer bottle, with the soil and the water. Let that weight be W3. Now what you do, you remove all the soil, all the water, you clean the pycnometer properly, right? And then you fill the pycnometer only with the water. That weight is W4. Now I want my G, right? Specific gravity. So what we define specific gravity as weight of solids by weight of water having equal volume as solids, that is volume of solids into gamma W. Fine. So this is uh, weight of water having equal volume as solids. So how can we find that out? So this solids volume we can easily find out, right? Which is the difference between W2 and W1. So the W2 and W1 will give you the numerator, right? And the denominator value is what? See, uh, if you remove this part from this, okay, this is the volume of water. Now if I remove that water volume here, and I left with only this part. So this weight, the water weight, is what in your denominator, So this is what in your denominator. How can we find out this weight? I'll have one way. So subtract W2 from W3, what you'll get. So if you get subtract W2 from W3, so you'll get only this weight, right? Water weight. This is the additional water present. Now subtract W1 from W4. So subtract W1 from W4. What you'll get? You'll get this total water weight. So you are removing the empty weight of container picnometer, so you'll get the total weight of water. Now this part is uh, only this weight, and this part is this total weight. Now if you remove this part from this, then you will get this water weight equal to the solids volume. Water weight equal to the solids volume. Fine. So that is what your denominator. So how can we get that? That is equals to W4 minus W1 minus of W3 minus W2. So by having these four weights, so you can actually find out the specific gravity of solids, right? This way. So use picnometer. So this is generally applicable for poisonless soils like sands and gravels, large size particles, right? But if you find out the G for clays, this picnometer is generally replaced with the density bottle, which is of smaller size. So you can easily find out the specific gravity using density bottle. And one more thing is, water is replaced by kerosene. Because the clay particles, we know that they generally have some charge, right? Negative charge. So they are very susceptible to absorption of water. If you give water, then the clay particles will absorb the water. So we want this fluid that we are filling to occupy only the voids. So it should not absorb to the solid soil particle, right? That's why what we do, instead of water you add kerosene. So kerosene will not react with the clay particles because it's a non-polar. So this is a non-polar liquid, so it will not react with clay, right? Yeah. So this is the oven drying method. Sorry, pactometer method and the density bottle method. So this is how we find out specific gravity. And the last parameter is unit weight. So we generally represent with gamma. So this unit weight we can define as weight to volume. So now this is not volume, neither weight. It's a combined relation. So this is actually the weight over volume. Yeah. So weight of soil by volume of the soil. So weight of soil by the volume of soil. So this is actually unit weight, but depends on the condition how the soil is. So this gamma can be defined in different ways. So if the soil is in completely dry state, let's say this is solid particles, and you have only air in the voids, right? So in this case, so you consider unit weight as dry unit weight. So this is dry unit weight. So which will be dry volume, weight of dry soil by volume of total soil. Dry soil is nothing but weight of solids only, because the water is evaporated, right? So this is weight of solids by volume of solids, right? This is dry unit weight. Now if the soil is in saturated condition, so if the soil is in saturated condition, so this is solid particles, and if all the voids are filled with water, if all the voids are filled with water, where the degree of saturation is 1, and for the dry state degree of saturation is 0. So for this case, saturated case, if you find out the unit weight, that will be what we call saturated unit weight. Gamma saturated. So we call this as saturated unit weight. This will be a weight of saturated soil by volume, total volume. In the same way, as most of the cases you don't have these two conditions. You have some voids filled with water and some voids filled with air, right? This is the solids, and this is filled with water, and this is filled with air. So here the unit weight is considered as bulk unit weight. So this is same. Unit weight means it's only the weight over volume only, but this weight changes, depends on the condition, right? If water is more, then the weight will be more. If water is lesser, then the weight will be lesser. So this is bulk unit weight. So we can actually find out this expression for the bulk unit weight in terms of G, degree of saturation, and void ratio, and unit weight of water, right? So unit weight of water, you all know, you have come across the fluid mechanics, right? So the unit weight of water is around how much? 9810 kilonewton per meter cube. So this is the standard value. So the density is 1000 kg per meter cube. That is mass per volume. Now if you multiply with acceleration due to gravity, that will give you unit weight. So gamma W, this is unit weight of water, so which is almost constant. The unit weight of water is constant, right? Okay, we'll try to arrive at this gamma bulk. So I'll use the same expressions. This is volume of water, volume of solids, right? This is volume of air, and combinedly the air and water volume is volume of voids, and this is weight of water, weight of solids, right? Now we'll go with the process. Gamma bulk is what we call weight by volume, right? Total weight by total volume. So this total weight is actually equals to weight of water plus weight of solids. Fine. So now the total volume is what we can write as volume of voids plus volume of solids. Fine. Volume of water to the volume of solids. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to take out volume of solids from the denominator, common, right? I can write this as WW, weight of water plus weight of solids by, if I take out volume of solids outside, I'll have volume of voids by volume of solids plus 1, right? So now divide this to these two terms in the numerator, and this will be weight of water by volume of solids plus weight of solids by volume of solids over VV by Vs. This is volume of oils to the volume of solids. This we defined as void ratio, you know. So if you go back to the previous so this is the void ratio, right? So volume of voids to the volume of solids. So the same expression that we can use here. So this is volume of voids to the volume of solids. So VV in place of VV by Vs, I can write E, and I left with 1 over here. So now you observe here, this is weight of water to the volume of solids. Now what is this weight of water? This weight, right? Now can I convert this weight of water into volume of water into unit weight of water? See, because the unit weight of water means it's weight of water to the volume of water. So in place of WW, I can write, okay, I'll take one more place here. Same expression. So gamma bulk is what we got as WW by Vs plus Ws by Vs by 1 plus E. So this weight of water is actually equals to the density of water into volume of water. And you have Vs over here. And weight of solids. See, I've derived one expression in terms of G for the weight of solids, right? So just right now, just a few moments ago, we gave this expression. Yeah, this is. So I can write weight of solids as G times gamma W weight, unit weight of water times volume of solids, right? I'll use the same expression here. So weight of solids is G gamma W volume of solids, and here we have volume of solids over 1 plus E, right? So I can take out gamma W from these two expressions, and I'm left with VW by Vs plus GVS by Vs. So Vs gets cancelled here, so I'll be V only here, right? 1 plus E. So VW by Vs, volume of water by volume of solids. Do we have any relation between these two terms? Water and solids? No, right? But I do have relation with the volume of solids and volume of voids and volume of water to the volume of solids. So what I do is I'll convert this into something like this. So I'll write this way: volume of water to the volume of water, volume of voids, and I'll multiply here with volume of voids, and you have volume of solids here. So I multiplied and divided with volume of voids on both the sides, numerator and denominator. So this doesn't change any value. So this is G. We have 1 plus E. So this is what we call as degree of saturation, volume of water to the volume of voids. How much water is filled with the water, how much voids is filled with the water. This is degree of saturation, and this is your void ratio, so we can write this as gamma W into G plus SE by 1 plus E. So this is S, degree of saturation, and this is E, void ratio. So this is the final expression: G plus SC by 1 plus E times gamma W is your gamma bulk. Fine. So this is the expression for gamma bulk. See, you generally use this expression for a lot of numericals, but the thing is, even if you don't remember this expression, you can actually go with the three-phase diagram. You can quickly plot the three-phase diagram and come up with that, but you don't need to worry. So if you practice more, so easily you will remember this expression. I never tried to remember it, but with the time, as long as I go with the basics, definitions and derivation more number of times, then I finally arrive only this expression. By looking at this expression more number of times, this was kept in my mind, right? The same way you can remember this expression with the practice, right? So this is the bulk unit weight, G plus SE by 1 plus E gamma W. Okay. Now one more thing we can do here. So this S depends on the state, right? Now if your soil is dry state, so in which you find out the dry unit weight. So if the soil is in dry state, what happens to S? There is no water, so degree of saturation 0. So then this equation will be turns into G, S is 0, so the second term will not be there. So G gamma W by 1 plus E. This is gamma dry. And the same way for saturated condition, gamma sat, S is 1. So your expression will change to G plus S is 1, so G plus E by 1 plus E into gamma W. There is a one more case which is submerged. No? So if you keep the soil inside some water, what happens here is there will be some buoyancy force. The water will try to lift it up. So now if you find out this weight inside that water, inside that fluid, then this will be generally lesser than the actual weight. This will be generally less than the actual weight. So the weight you observe will be the weight of total soil minus the volume displaced, weight of water displaced, that is volume of the soil into unit weight of water, gamma W. So divided by, this is total weight. I mean, you observed inside the water under the submergence. If you divided this with volume, then this is what we call submerged unit weight. So the submerged unit weight. We also represent with gamma dash many times. So this is what we call submerged unit weight. So this is actually equals to saturated volume minus VV into gamma W by volume of soil. So this VSW by VV is actually gamma sat, and you have one more term which is gamma W, unit weight of water. So this gamma dash is actually equals to gamma sat minus gamma W. From this expression, if you subtract gamma W, then you will left with G minus 1 by 1 plus E gamma W. So this is the expression for submerged unit weight. These are the 4 unit weights: saturated, dry, submerged and bulk. So out of which is more? See, whichever you numerate is more, that will be more. So here the degree of saturation is 1, maximum is 1, right? 100%. So generally the saturated unit weight is more. And then the bulk. So gamma sat will be generally more of all. And then gamma bulk. And then gamma dry. And at last submerged unit weight. So this, all these unit weights, see, gamma water we know, right, which is 9810 Newton per meter cube. So this is approximately equals to 9.81 kilonewton per meter cube. So we approximate generally with the 10, 10 kilonewton per meter cube. We consider 10 kilonewton per meter cube. But all these other gammas are generally ranging between, some 17 to 22 kilonewton per meter cube. So gamma value generally will be in this range. Saturated will be close to 20, and the dry unit weight will be close to 16, 15 something in that range. And it depends on soil to soil also, right? So it depends on soil to soil also. So this is the unit weight. Okay. So I want to find out one more relation related to this unit weight. Okay, I just want to find out this relation between gamma bulk and gamma dry. Can we find this out? So gamma bulk is weight of soil by volume of soil, right? So weight of soil is weight of solids plus water weight by total volume, right? If you separate this out, okay, if you separate this out, this is weight of solids. Okay, I'll take out this weight of solids common, then I'll be left with 1 minus weight of water by, okay, 1 plus weight of solids by V, right? So this weight of solids by volume, so this is dry weight only, right? So this will be gamma dry itself, 1 plus this WW by WS, water weight by solids weight. This is water content, small w. So we can write gamma dry also as gamma bulk by 1 plus W. If you know the water content of a soil, you can easily find out the dry unit weight of that soil by having bulk unit weight, right? So this is an expression for gamma dry and gamma bulk. So I want to find out one more relation here. This is which is between Z. Okay, let's say this is the case. Solids, water, air. So there is one more relation between G, S, E and W, right? Okay. How can we arrive at this? Okay, let's consider water content. Okay, this is W is water content, so which is weight of water by weight of solids, right? So weight of water is what? Let's say this is volume of water. So the weight of water will be equals to volume of water. If you multiply this with unit weight of water, then that will give you weight of water, right? And Ws, we represented this in terms of G, right? If you do remember previously. So this Ws we can also write as G times volume of solid times gamma W, So this can be transformed into gamma W will get cancelled out. So VW by G into Vs. So I don't have a relation between VW and Vs. So what I do is I'll convert this in terms of VW by VV. I divide this VV and I'll multiply with the VV again, volume of oils, so which will not change anything, right? So this VW by VV is what your degree of saturation, isn't it? So this is degree of saturation. and this VV by Vs is your void ratio. So this will be degree of saturation times void ratio by G. So your W is actually equals to SC by G. So this is the one more relation. So these are the relations which we use in the numericals. So we'll solve the numericals in the next class, right? So you try to look at these expressions again. Try to derive all these expressions again. Even if you forgot the expressions, it's still okay, you know. So if you know this three-phase diagram, then you can actually come up with this equation. It's just a matter of 1 minute for the deriving, right? But the thing is, if you do more practice, then automatically you don't have to deal with this derivation part. You can easily remember. Okay, fine.